Welcome in, Nickel City Mafia. Welcome back to another edition of Red, White, and Ruthless presented by Nickel City Mafia, where our family business is football. Joining me tonight is my partner in crime, and unfortunately, both of us are actually sick today, but we're powering through for you guys because we love you and we cannot miss another show. Otherwise, we will be replaced, and we don't want to be the replacements this early in the season. So we're going to power through for our Week 9 matchup between the Buffalo Bills and Miami Dolphins. This matchup is going to be one of the most highly anticipated matchups of Week 9, where you have two offenses, one of them the Buffalo Bills, that added a playmaker into the lineup with Amari Cooper, and you saw the trickle effect come into play with guys like Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir having a big day last week in Seattle. And then you see the other offense in the Miami Dolphins with Tua Tagovailoa, what he can do to an offense when they were struggling left and right. And you saw what happened with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill when they didn't have their number one quarterback in play. Their numbers drastically went down. Now they're adding in Tua Tagovailoa, and this is going to be one of those games like Sean and I talked about in the war room behind us. This is going to be one of those games where it's going to be a team that's due for a win, and they're not going to give it to us easily. So this is going to be a fun matchup and one that is going to be a little bit scary because Sean mentioned it in the green room, what the Bills have at stake here on a week where it's daylight savings time. They haven't won in the past 4 years on daylight savings time. And now the the Miami Dolphins haven't won in Buffalo in a number of years. So this is a team that's going to be hungry. They want to come out with a bang. Well, Sean, let me bring you into the show, man, and thank you for joining me. I know you're not feeling well. I wish you all the best, man, and speedy recovery. But let's kick it off and let's talk about this Miami Dolphins matchup and the return of Tua Tagovailoa. Let's start with that and what he did last week against the Cardinals. Give me a little bit of a preview on that, man.
Yeah, well, they definitely missed him, and I was one of the people that believed even without him they could get some shit done because they have Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. They got some good players on defense. They got a great running back room. So I was like, yeah, they might not win as many games, but I think they can stay afloat without Tua. And it seemed like nobody wanted to play. Obviously, they tried, but it seemed like nobody wanted to play without him. And now that he's back, they played the Cardinals last week, and we know they're a pretty good team. They're decent, and Tua came back and didn't seem too rusty. Yeah, he missed. When you watch the film, uh, he took some underneath plays when the deeper plays were open. I don't know if that was, that could have been rust, mental rust, but other than that, he gave his team a chance to win. Ultimately, they didn't have a complete game and didn't win, but they definitely played better. They scored 27 points and they averaged like 12 points without him. So they definitely had a better chemistry with him, and you expect them to continue doing that week after week. But at the same time, Buffalo Dolphins, two was 1-7, so you have that going for us. But as we mentioned, we were 3-35 against Tom Brady. So even us in our bet, and that was when we were horrible, we still found ways to get wins against them. Like I mentioned, the last 3 or 4 years, we've lost on the day that daylight savings time happened, which is
Right.
tomorrow. And then the Dolphins haven't beaten us in Buffalo since 2016. And then
Right.
that when you add, we're also 12-2 against them with Josh Allen. It always makes you think they're due for a win. We may have a better record. We may have been playing better football, but they still have a very talented roster. Yeah, they're full of injuries on defense, which we could get into that. They're already missing Bradley Chubb. They're already missing Jalen Phillips, and then they're missing Zach Seiler as well. So now all they have left of note really is Calais Campbell, who we did pretty well against week 2, and then Chop Robinson, who if my friends are able to come up here, they could tell you how he's not living up to what his first round grade was, or first round pick status.
Mm.
So on the offensive line wise, I think we could really dominate in the trenches. And then they're missing Javon Holland's doubtful, so that's one of their starting safeties. And then you got Kader Kohu, who was starting for them, who's out. You still got Jalen Ramsey and Fuller, but I really think if we could dominate the line of scrimmage, offensively we should be fine. But then you got to always look at the other side on their offense. They're just a millisecond away from a big explosive play.
Yeah.
So it's really important, which I always say when we play Miami, stick to your assignment. Don't get fooled by the window dressing in the backfield when they do the motions and the misdirections and all that crazy stuff. They're trying to get you to bite and get confused. But if you keep your eyes where they're supposed to be and you stick to your gap, you stick to your lane, you stick to your zone, things usually work out well for us, and they got to figure out how to respond to that.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right on that. And we saw last week with the Miami offense and what they did with their running backs. That's one thing that kind of concerns me. Raheem Mostert had 2 touchdowns last week. Devon Achane had a pretty good game as well. A number of catches out of the backfield as well as some good runs. That's one area that I'm kind of concerned for the Buffalo Bills is they haven't been able to necessarily stop the runs or handle running backs out of the backfield on screens. So that's a focal point for me when it comes to the key matchup and what the Bills have to do to get a win here is you have to stop the explosive plays not only from Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, but you also have to stop the explosive plays out of the backfield with a running back that has incredible speed as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they ran pretty decent on us last time as well. And we do struggle in stopping the run, but we always have those one-off games like last week where you held one of the top 10 running backs to 15 yards, and we even held Derrick Henry to a couple games to really poor performances, like 1 yard of carry performances. So it's possible that we could do a good job, but consistently, that's where we struggle the most. So
Yeah,
you would imagine that would be their game plan is heavy hitter on the run until we could stop it. But at the same time, Mike McDaniel now, even when the run's working, obviously you're going to sprinkle in the pass, maybe a little too much, and that might help us out if we can disrupt the timing offense. Because when it's the timing offense and the rhythm is going, they can put up 70 points on someone. But
exactly.
again, we've had the experience because we play them twice a year. It seems like McDermott has the idea of what they're doing in their offense,
Right.
and we have Bernard back. We have our secondary healthy. So if we can disrupt the rhythm and the timing, get the pressure with 4, and it makes everything hard. And then obviously the crowd's going to be loud and crazy.
Yeah.
So they got to do silent count, and that makes it difficult as well, as you saw with us getting 12 penalties the last week, and then against the Jets. So it'll be a challenge for both teams, and the biggest challenge for us is understanding it doesn't matter what the record is. It doesn't matter that we beat them so many times. Any given Sunday, don't let them have an opportunity or momentum in the game. If they score, we got to score. If they get a field goal, we got to get a touchdown. So
Exactly.
it's going to be a chess match.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And when you mentioned this Miami Dolphins offense, like I said, this offense is going to be one of the ones that I think Mike McDaniel has to come out of the gates and run the ball in this game and establish the run. But at times, the biggest issue for him is that he gets a little too greedy with his play calling and he goes one sided where he throws the ball on almost every single play. And that benefits the Buffalo Bills. This game comes down to, for me, the Miami Dolphins, if they can run the ball and establish the run and then set up that play action with Devon Achane in the backfield and Raheem Mostert, that's going to make it even more harder for the Buffalo Bills to get into a rhythm on defense and figure out what the Miami Dolphins are trying to run. If it were up to me, like I said, I would run the ball. If I'm Miami, I would find ways to not only run the ball, but get your playmakers involved early and often in this game. And if they are able to do that, then you're going to see Tua and the offense go down the field, and they're going to be able to put up points on the board. But if they don't, then Buffalo is going to be able to stay in this game because they're going to be able to run the ball and take away possessions that Tua is going to get on the field. They're not going to have a lot of shots to go down the field and score if Buffalo is running the ball left and right down your throat.
Yeah, and they could get yards at will. So if we could buckle down in the red zone and force them to field goals, or maybe even go for it on fourth down and you stop them, that's the place where you'd want to live, because again, they're going to put up yardage. They're going to put up some points too. And as long, if they don't turn the ball over and we don't turn the ball over, we've seen what kind of games those can be. The Buffalo game, when we played in Buffalo with the snow at the end, that came down to a last-second field goal for Tyler Bass. I don't think anybody turned the ball over that game. That was a pretty good one. Now, when you look at the game last year in Miami, Allen turned the ball over 2 or 3 times. Tua turned the ball over 2 or 3 times. And it turned out we won off a punt return, 21-14. So if we both turn the ball over, the games will stay close. If one turns the ball over, the game might get away from the other team, because both of these offenses can score, quite a bit of points. So if we keep the ball clean and we force them into errant throws and get turnovers, we get extra possessions, short field. You get what happens last time. We got short field. Allen only was 13 for 18 for 130 yards and a touchdown, and we put up 24 offensive points.
Right.
And that's really all we needed to do, which is awesome. But then I'm also confident that if we need to drive the field, we could do that as well. And again, Miami still has pretty good secondary, even though they're missing a couple guys. But also, I'm confident that Josh can do his thing and make it tough for them as well. It'll be a good battle. But you got to be able to stop the run too. You want to get to Tua. You want to disrupt his rhythm, and they got again excellent backfield. They got a 3-headed monster, because as much as Keon Coleman is different from week 2, Jalen Wright is getting more. He's not getting like a huge workload, but he's starting to get some good plays in.
Absolutely.
And again, Achan's good. Achan's a threat in the receiving game too. Maybe even more so, because how bad it is for us to try to defend a screen pass. Because it's just, I don't know why. That's just one thing we never really been able to do well. But yeah, I'm feeling like it's going to be a game where I think you want to, if we win the toss, you might want to get the football first and try to put up a touchdown. But we'll see.
We'll see. I do appreciate you guys joining us in the chat. I see you, Jessica Tennis, coming into the chat saying, "Hey guys," as well as One Move Chop Robinson. She also says that the Dolphins do not have the defensive line or the bodies to hold up against the Bills jumbo package. Absolutely, you're right on that. The Miami Dolphins.
It'll be. Oh, sorry, Brett. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Sean.
I was going to say, well, besides that, it's going to be tough for them with just the normal 5, because as you see it week by week, teams can't get pressure with 4. The only time they do is when they bring 5 or 6 on a blitz, and once in a while you get beat with 4, but it's really rare, and that's why most people always have to blitz. And Miami, if they start blitzing, that's when it's going to get real bad for them. So they either have to hope they can somehow get home with 4, or that their secondary, even with the injuries, can prevail, because they have pretty good stats against the pass. And the one thing I do want to say, I know I don't try to listen to media too much, but on Nick Wright's show they do the upset alert, and Eric Mangini picked the Dolphins, and it's not that he picked the Dolphins that's the problem, but what he said was, "Oh, you look at Buffalo, and who have they beaten?" And then even that, I'm like, okay, whatever. But then he said he's picking Miami because of Tua's back and their pass defense is really good. And I was like, okay, well, you can't really say who have we beaten and then give them credit for their pass defense, because who have they played as a quarterback? Like when Josh played, they didn't really have to do much. But then look at the other quarterbacks they played against. So it's not the fact that you could pick Miami as an upset, and I wouldn't be mad at that. But you're discrediting Buffalo by saying who have they beaten, but then giving credit to them for saying, oh, look at their pass defense. I feel like that was just like a weird way to to describe a game, because
Yeah,
you give one team credit without the context, and then you discredit some other team because they beat some decent teams and some bad teams. I don't know. I just thought it was weird because it's like, you were a coach. You can't you can't say like who we beat and then give them credit for playing against bad quarterbacks. But
yeah,
again, I don't think that they're bad. I'm just saying, like, it was odd for me to listen to him say something like, "Oh, who have Buffalo beaten?" and then do that. But yeah, the stats show that Miami's got a pretty good pass defense. And I'm not going to take that away because stats, they paint a picture. It's not the whole picture, but at the same time, I really think that we could take advantage of it. Middle of the
absolutely.
field, you got Dalton Kincaid. I think Amari Cooper's going to have his biggest day as a Bill. I think the main reason why he didn't do much last week was because it was in a hostile environment and he had to do a lot of silent count. And I'm sure that they just weren't like thinking he could be ready for all that after 10 days in the building. But at
Yeah,
home, I think he'll get more look, and then it'll be a good matchup with Fuller or Jalen Ramsey, and then Shakir and Jalen Ramsey, Keon Coleman, Jalen Ramsey, and he's still a dog, but he's slowing down a bit. Respectfully,
yeah,
he's a one of the best players at the position, but he's slowing down a little bit. And Josh likes to challenge him ever
yeah,
since that day years ago. He always goes after him a couple times, so that's going to be a good matchup. I'm sure he's going to try to throw a back shoulder ball one on one when it's Coleman, and hopefully Coleman doesn't get outdone by the vet on that, because he's had a lot of back shoulder balls thrown to him in his
yeah,
career, I'm sure. But yeah, there's a lot of good matchups, and then not only that, it's a division game. It doesn't matter if you're 1-15 and 15-1. Division games are always tough, as you see. Like the Texans and Colts, the Dolphins Patriots, the Jets Patriots. Like these games have all been relatively relatively close and pretty good matchups. So again, I know the players don't, and I know fans might overlook them because we've got the better record against them. But at the same time, I played the game, and I've been on really horrible teams that you know shocked people, and I've been on really good teams and lost to teams we shouldn't have lost to. And
right.
I'll never I'll never go into it. Even if we're playing the Panthers, I wouldn't think, "Oh yeah, this is easy win," because I've seen crazier things happen.
Absolutely. And one thing I do want to mention, you talked about the Bills' offense and how they can find ways to exploit the defense of the Miami Dolphins. I want to bring up some comments that were made earlier in the week. We saw a press conference with the Miami Dolphins defensive coordinator, Anthony Weaver, and his comments about Josh Allen, saying that Josh is one of those guys that you have to worry about not only his legs, but you also have to worry about him uh, when he's carrying the ball. He says that he carries the ball uh, and makes it so that it's easy for the defenders to get the ball out. Now I'm paraphrasing what he said a little bit. I have a little bit of medicine head, so understand that I'm not going to be able to fully articulate what he was saying, but he's saying that pretty much it's easy for uh, player on defense to get the ball out of Josh Allen's hands because he kind of carries it like a loaf of bread, is the saying that he said. And he says that not only do you have to go for the sack, but or tackling Josh Allen, but you also have to go for his shoulder in order to get the ball out because he turns the ball over a lot. Now, what Anthony Weaver's saying there, yes, is he correct? Probably, yeah. More than likely, he is. But look at what Josh Allen has done this season. Only 3 turnovers this year so far. Only 1 interception, 2 fumbles that he's given up. His what Anthony Weaver is saying, like I said, is correct. But do you think that his comments were wrong?
No, and I say that every time he runs the ball. He because he played with Shady McCoy, and he runs like Shady McCoy. Not as fast, not as agile, not as good, obviously, but the way he holds the ball, just like Shady McCoy did, and that's why he fumbled running without anyone touching him last week against Seattle, because he wasn't having two hands on the football. Granted, it was wet then, so obviously it's easier to fumble even with two hands on the ball. But yeah, I don't think he meant any disrespect about it. Obviously, he knows he knows that Allen can beat the best of the defenses out there. He knows he can put up points on anybody. He knows he can embarrass anyone. So I like Anthony Weaver. I think he's going to be a good head coach one day. I don't think he meant any ill will by it, but when he said that, I know some people were saying like, "Oh, they're talking crap about Allen," but that's I hope Allen heard that because he needs to not do that because that's how you
Exactly.
could lose the football. Like that one time, even against Miami, he put his hand in Kyle Van Noy's chest, and with the ball standing put like straight up in the air while he's putting Van Noy into the ground. It's like, dude, like you got to protect that football. So yeah, nothing he said was wrong. I don't. Obviously, he knows Allen's a great quarterback. He didn't want to go up there probably and just kiss his butt the whole time and say like, oh yeah, he's one of the best in the world. Like look at D'Amico Ryans the other day after we played them and they played Jordan Love the next week. He goes, yeah, this is the best quarterback we're going to play all year. And obviously Allen's twice the quarterback Jordan Love is. So people
Right.
just it's more of like they don't want to kiss ass tactic and you know. But yeah, I hope Allen heard that because I don't want him to hold the ball like that anymore.
Me
It's
either.
dangerous. It's dangerous. It doesn't mean you're bad. It just means you're a little bit careless at times when you're running, and you know those uh, those fumbles that Allen had this year. One of them was that a trick play in Baltimore that could have been avoided. So I'm really, I think everybody in the league's impressed with 9 games in or 8 games in. Allen's got 1 interception and 3 total turnovers, which is probably the least amount in the league. Definitely the least interceptions. And, it's not a fluke. It's not 8 games in. He's making the better
Yeah.
decisions. He's reading the field better. He's trusting his guys more. And this could have been him years ago, but it's better late than never. He's not obviously. I'm not going to say he's not going to keep 1 interception the whole year. Like yeah, things happen, but collectively he made a better effort to take care of the football, and I think he's been doing a great job. And Anthony Weaver, their defense has been pretty good point wise. I
Yeah.
think they're going to give up 22 points a game. Um, but again, I think we'll do a good job. And it's not no disrespect to him, but it's just any defense. Allen's proved that he could beat the best of them. Those Vic Fangio defenses in Denver, the Chiefs defenses, he does a good job, and he's not afraid to make some plays.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talked about um, Josh Allen's play last week and the conditions that they were in. Let's talk about the conditions this week in Orchard Park, New York. This is the perfect fall weather game. High temperature of 57 degrees for the game. Winds at 8 miles an hour. I know, Sean, the past couple of weeks you've been concerned about the weather. I mean, 8 mile an hour winds and 57 degrees, mostly sunny skies for the game. This is the perfect atmosphere for a fall weather game. If you're looking to go out to Highmark Stadium and deal with the foliage, this is the perfect time for a game. And I wish I was up there. I just left New York a couple days ago, and I was able to experience the foliage. It was beautiful. Got to go to Bar Bill and experience the Bar Bill wings. Man, what a beautiful time! And the Leafs, the way that the Leafs look this time of the year with all the colors that you get to see, the colors that I don't get to see in Florida on trees. It's just beautiful. And now a fall weather game back home in Orchard Park after 4 out of the last 5 games being on the road for the Bills. It's an excellent atmosphere.
Oh yeah, it's going to be perfect. This is probably the best weather we've had this year. I don't. Week one, it was windy. It was like 25 mile an hour wind gusts.
Right.
Miami rained during the day, so the field was wet. And then, you know, home against Jacksonville was good. I think that might have been a little bit windy too, from what I remember. But those wind gusts, like 30 mile an hour wind gusts, that's why it's just like, man, you could throw a perfect ball and all of a sudden the gust comes and then it lifts it
Yep.
up and it's a bad throw. And then in Seattle, it was 20 mile an hour wind gusts plus rain. And I was really
Yeah.
surprised. I was really surprised about how well we were throwing the football, catching the football, and running with the football. And knock on wood, but kudos to everybody else. No one else has a turnover on the team.
Yeah.
We have three total turnovers. I know we fumbled a couple, but we recovered them, so they're not counting as lost fumble, not no turnover plays.
Right.
So again, knocked on some wood, but everyone's doing a great job of taking care of the football. And again,
Absolutely.
we probably as a team have the least amount of turnovers in the team, for any team in the league, and that's something to be proud of after 8 weeks of football. And
Yeah.
you know, I know we played some bad teams, but we have a good point differential. We're putting bad teams away, and you know, I think if we played, I'm not gonna say we would ever go 17-0 because that's ridiculous. But if we played Houston again, I think eight times out of 10 we beat them. And then you look at Baltimore, they destroyed us, but they've given up at least 23 points to every other team they played this year besides us. So when you look at that, you're like, maybe that was a little fluky for us. Like maybe we could have still lost, but probably put up a better game, if we played another time. So I'm proud of this team, man. And
Yeah.
you have a chance to beat a division rival, make them 2-6, go 3-0 in the division, and be 7-2 overall. And that would be very awesome going into another AFC game against the Colts. And then you got
Yeah.
the Chiefs the Chiefs game where I'll be at. So you
Yeah.
got to go one game at a time, one play at a time, one drive at a time. And I'm not saying I'm going to expect at least Hill or Waddle to have a big game, because there's no way because we kept them to 40 yards total last time. There's no way you could do that back to back times. I don't think. I don't know. Maybe, but it just doesn't seem like it's a realistic thing to keep both those guys quiet when you play them, because they're dynamic. One of them might break away a big one, and that might be it. But they're going to
Yeah.
get more than 40 yards total, I think, and we got to be able to respond. And like I said, if they score, you got to score too, because you can't let them get a touchdown. Even if you get a field goal, then they get the ball back and get another touchdown, and it's 14-3. You don't want to live in
Yeah.
that kind of space with them, because then if it's 14-3, they can start running the football. You can't stop the run. They're wasting all the time. They get touchdowns, and it's 21-3. Then you gotta have a hope and a prayer. So this is a very important game to start hot in.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about Hill and Waddle, what they have to do. What the Bills have to do in this game, is number one, they have to find a way to disrupt the timing between Tua and his receivers. I know that this is something that we talked about previously in other episodes of Kyer Elam coming into the game and playing press man coverage, but this game for me comes down to seeing the Bills utilize press man coverage and utilize two high safeties over the top to take away the deep ball in this game. If the Bills are able to utilize that press man coverage, I think it disrupts the timing of Tua. And this is a very time sensitive offense for the Miami Dolphins. Like I said, it just comes down to me just disrupt the timing within the first 5 yards, jam them at the line of scrimmage, try and throw them down to the ground, and play physical football right there from the start.
Yeah, absolutely, very important, man. What do you got next?
Yeah, let me
I know you had
go
some
with the comments
questions.
real quick because there's a couple comments coming
Oh,
in from Jessica
Creed
Tennis.
the band.
Yeah, I think you did get that from Creed. I really do. But let's move on to the next topic that we're going to talk about. I know we're kind of jumping between the offense and the defense guys, but the next topic that I want to talk about is Von Miller's return and how much it means to the Buffalo Bills after going 3-1 in his absence. This is a big time to get a star-studded defensive end and somebody that leads the NFL in sacks throughout his career. You add him into the mix with the guys that we have now, and this defense is only getting better. And this is the perfect time for a team that wants to go to the playoffs. Would you agree, Sean?
Yeah. I was pretty upset. Obviously, Von had the great start year one, 8 sacks in 9 games, I think. Tore his ACL. Then he was absolutely trash last year. Like, you probably would have been better off having me out there than Von Miller last year, and it would have been the same. And then started off this year hot. 3 sacks, 4 games. He didn't really play much in the Baltimore game because we were getting routed and didn't have many third down opportunities, and so he didn't really play much. Then you get suspended when you're hot, which I know he probably did whatever they suspended him for. But so why couldn't you suspend him last year when he sucked ass? Why do you got to do it now when he's when he's back to playing good football? But I think obviously you can't practice with the team when you're suspended, but he was definitely doing work. He wasn't just sitting down eating potato chips and going on vacations and having a good time. He was probably putting in work, recovering, resting, getting his muscles ready, and then he'll come out this week and be what he's been all year, the situational pass rusher, which is a perfect for him. And like dude, he was getting a sack a game. So if you could do that for the rest of the year, you're going to have a double-digit sack season, and you're going to have
Yeah.
a pretty good impact. And
Yeah.
we've been doing all right. Obviously, we don't have super elite pass rushers, but they work well together as a cohesive unit. And I know Austin Jackson had a better year last year out of his career, but Greg Rousseau, if you're not an elite tackle, Greg Rousseau is probably going to have a good day against you. Obviously, Terran Armstead's playing. He's obviously probably banged up. That's just who, that's just who he is. But he's going to start the game at least.
Yeah.
And I think Epinesa is a good matchup for him because Epinesa might not win all the time,
Mhm.
but he's extremely fast off the ball. So I really think with an old guy like Armstead, I think that could be a good matchup where you can beat him a couple times, bend underneath him and just get right by him and he whiffs you. Um, then you might put Greg Rousseau over there, Dwayne Smoot over there for power,
Yeah.
and maybe bull rush him and see what you could do there. And but yeah, I think our defensive line is going to be pretty good. And again, I love O line. In the Dolphin community, a lot of people say, "Oh, the O line's the worst in the league. They suck. They're this." But they're not great and they're not bad. They're probably as middle of the pack as you could be. So they're probably 14th or 15th overall if I had to watch every single O line and rank them. But just off of
Mhm.
watching them and watching the film and the games I've seen of them play, they're in the middle.
Yeah.
They're decent in pass blocking, decent in run blocking. They get beat a lot, but they do a pretty good job. So um, they're they're definitely not the worst O line we played. We played Houston, which was a lot worse, and we didn't really do much, which is pretty upsetting. So I know Tua gets the ball out fast, but if you can just if our secondary can do their job and disrupt the timing, it gives the D line an extra half second that they need to get to the quarterback, or at least have Greg Rousseau 6'7" body jump up into his face, makes him hard to throw the football. And
Yeah.
again, interior pressures, pushing the pocket is always important. And I would say Brewer's probably having his best year as a pro, but Eichenberg, again, probably where they struggle the most at right guard and then left guard. I don't even know who the left guard is at this point. So besides the left tackle, I think we could do a good job against Austin Jackson with whoever we put over there, and then Ed Oliver is probably going to have a good day.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have Dequan Jones, who's been playing some pretty good ball lately as well in the middle of the line for the Buffalo Bills. And this is going to be, the first time in a while in a season that this late into the season, the Bills are, I'd say, relatively healthy. I mean, only Reggie Gilliam is the only player that's out. Three players that are questionable in Cooper, as well as Curtis Samuel, and you add into the mix Christian Benford, but all are expected to play. Terrell Bernard are expected to play as well. It's pretty much a team that's relatively healthy, besides Matt Milano not being there for the rest or for the start of the season and so far this season. But you add into the mix, you get Von Miller back, and in a couple of weeks, Matt Milano comes back as well. So this team is going to be destined for a deep playoff run, getting all these guys back and staying healthy. That's the one thing I am impressed with so far this season from the Buffalo Bills, is that how healthy they have been so far.
Yeah, definitely. What was I going to say? Yeah, I think it's important. I think in the first couple drives where everything's going to be scripted, I mean,
Mhm.
throughout the whole game, of course, too, but really congest that middle of the field while you're taking the timing and rhythm away, and force them to make the throws to the sideline, because you get these guys like Waddle and Tyreek Hill space, That's how the big chunk yards happen. But if they're at the sideline because you're congesting the middle, it's easier to get it to wrangle them in, and they don't get much yards if they're that close and you box them in and tackle them. So that's important. And then you can kind of sell out, stopping the run, and then again to supply the pressure on them. But they're
Absolutely.
gonna, even if you do stop the run, they're gonna break away a couple big runs. That's just how it goes. They got
Absolutely.
talent. It's the NFL, so playmakers make plays. Even if you don't win the game, you're still gonna have a play here and there. Like, look at us in that Ravens game. I mean, in that Texans game, we weren't making a lot of plays, but then we made that 50-yard touchdown to Coleman. It just happened. Some things happen, but we got to be able to limit them, limit the big explosive plays, and give our offense chances to take apart that defense that's missing some guys. And
Yeah.
where Josh, again, I know it's all in the past, but he literally has the MVP season against Miami in his career, and the 17 game isn't even done yet. So counting the
Yeah.
playoffs, he's got 4,100 total yards, 39 total touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and over like 115 quarterback rating. So he's basically averaging about 300 total yards and about 2.8 touchdowns, which we'll just say three, against the Dolphins in his career. So
Mm.
I know they've had great defenses, they've had bad defenses, and this year he didn't really do anything. But this is a different team than it was in week 2 for
Yeah.
us, especially where we're able to run the ball. I mean, we've always have been, but we're able to run the ball efficiently, and our passing offense has really opened up. And again, now you add Cooper into that mix. Coleman reaching his stride right now at this point. Him and Josh got a great connection. There's no excuse for us. Again, not discrediting Miami at all, but there's no excuse for us, especially on offense, not to really tear it up.
Yeah, you're right. And the identity of the Bills offense has already been figured out. You're seeing it. They're able to run the ball. 50% of the downs, they're able to run the ball. And you have a two-headed tandem in James Cook and Ray Davis in the mix. And then you look at the defense, or I'm sorry, the passing game for the Buffalo Bills and what they are able to do with Amari Cooper leading the way, and you have Keon Coleman emerging as a number 2 option, and Khalil Shakir, who's playing the slot position and doing a great job there. Now you add into the mix eventually Curtis Samuel being healthy, which he hasn't been all season. And I feel like this is a game where for Buffalo, if Curtis Samuel isn't healthy, I honestly would say make him inactive this week because you don't necessarily need him out there on the field this week. You need him healthy when it comes down to the playoffs. And if he's not healthy, then yeah, you have Jalen Virgil that's going to be the practice squad elevation for the Buffalo Bills. And I feel like he can play that gadget role type player that uh, Curtis Samuel did. And he did it last week very well in Seattle, doing a good job of blocking as well. And I felt like this was a game for Buffalo that you need to have a guy like Virgil out there on the field in situations to be a blocker. And to be honest with you, the one takeaway that I will say from the Seattle game that I absolutely loved is the way that the wide receivers for the Bills were blocking.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's great when you have an elite offensive line, and then more times than not, your running backs, your receivers, and your tight ends can block well as well. There's some times in run plays where like the O lines got all their guys, and then the tight ends get blown up, and then the play gets tackled for no gain. But a lot of the time, these guys are really playing. Oh, I got to block this time. Cool, and that's again, Stephon Diggs was one of my favorite players at the time when we had him. But you know, you get rid of a guy like him who's very 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 elite, and maybe didn't fit the culture anymore, and you got to cut the cord, which is unfortunate. Then you got all these young guys that see, hey, oh, I can contribute by laying someone on the ground. Hell yeah, I'm doing that. And then, oh, maybe I'll get a catch this time. Cool. Look at Virgil last week. He just burned a bunch of calories, ran motion the entire game, didn't even get targeted. So maybe this time he gets a target because maybe the Dolphins will watch the film and be like, okay, this guy ran a motion the entire time. They didn't even look his way. And they used him to get other people open or whatever they did. And then now maybe Josh will be like, okay, now I'm going to dump it off to him. And then he's going to make a big play. Who knows? But yeah, man, I love football because it's just like, man, it don't matter how good you are, anything can happen. And like, I bet them Patriots didn't think that they were going to lose to the Giants in that Super Bowl, and they did. So I want to have a great win because if you lose to this team at home when they were struggling, and you got a chance to kind of not technically put them away, but they'd be 2-6, and ultimately they would have to win out because they got the Jets 2 more times. And then if they lost that game, one of the two, then you got 7 losses, and that might be it for you in the division to get a wild card.
Yeah.
So this is very, very, very important. This is probably going to be the best Miami Dolphins team you're going to see all year, because you would assume that they they don't want to get beat by us anymore. And like Jessica said earlier about go up by 2 scores and you deflate them, that's you saw that in week 2 because you know how bad they want to beat us. I, you know, when I transferred schools, and there was this team in baseball that they always took the championship from us for our sectional finals. I transferred over there. We played them in the regular season, which we usually didn't. It was the biggest game. It was my first year there, but you could just tell how important that game was because they kept beating our ass in the championship. Man, we destroyed them. We beat them like 20-5, and they had to cancel the game after the 5 inning mercy rule. And then we ended up winning the sectionals that year. We didn't end up playing them, but we went all the way to the regional finals up until right before the states. And you could just tell the emotion, how much it was important to win that one game because of how much times they were beating us. So Miami wants to win. And you tell week two when we started dominating them, they all just were like, shit, like this is it, man. Fuck this. Excuse my language.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like Jessica said, if you go up 17-0 or 21-3, and then they're not looking good at all, they're turning the football over, and then we're just doing whatever we want, they're gonna fold just because it's just absolutely gut wrenching. If it was any other team, they might not fold. But because if getting beat so many times in a row, or having won in Buffalo in 8 years and 12-2 against Miami, it would just be enough to be like, yeah, all right, we're done.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right on everything you said, Sean. And I think this is going to be a game that the Miami Dolphins are not going to give you anything easy, and that's what I'm taking out of it. And the Bills have to come out hungry. They have to come out like they want to take the division, like a team that wants to put up 50 points in this game, and they got to start off strong and they got to finish strong. They're not going to give you like I said, they're not going to give you anything easy. But let's move on to
you got to treat it like it's a playoff game.
Absolutely, you're right on that. Let's move on to key matchups real quick for the game and keys to the game. I'll start with key matchups real quick. Give me a matchup that you're looking forward to on offense for the Buffalo Bills versus the Miami Dolphins defense, and then give me one matchup on defense for the Bills that you're looking forward to against the Miami Dolphins offense.
Again, obviously, I mean, trenches is just a given, but if we don't dominate them, especially on offensive line to their defensive line, something happen because they just don't match up well against what we got. Nobody really matches up too well with us in the trenches, offensive line wise. But other than that, I think for a guy like maybe Amari Cooper to have a big day, no matter who he's up against, I think he can. I know Fuller's doing pretty good, but I think Cooper can beat any of those guys multiple times. So it's going to be important for him to have a big day. And then as far as us on defense, I would say maybe Greg Rousseau again have a big day because that's Austin Jackson's to his blind side. And if you can breathing down his neck the entire game. He's going to really get his internal clock sped up, especially because you're coming from behind. And that'll be, difficult for him to kind of, because, it was his first game back last week. And you could probably argue that the reason he was missing those down the field throws and taking the underneath throws was because he doesn't want to take hits.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to sit. He doesn't want to sit in the pocket an extra half a second to analyze. Oh, I can make this throw, because taking the check down is fine when there's nobody open. But these guys were open downfield because my friends now in the Dolphin community. I watch all their channels, the Fins Tailgate, the Blitz Pickup. They're always doing film showing this play was open, this play was open, and you're seeing it, and you're like, man, that guy was wide open actually. So, I think it's important to really rattle Tua and maybe not have to sack him, but make him so worried about getting pressured that he speeds up, throws the ball, inaccurately, maybe opportunity for us to get picks. And then if he's throwing with the anticipation and trying to throw it somewhere where he thinks Tyreek Hill's going to be, and you bump him at the line and he gets sped up in his drop back, he might throw it to an open defender like he did last time.
Yeah. Absolutely. You're right there, Sean. For me, on offense for the Buffalo Bills, it comes down to the middle of the field. I think the Dalton Kincaid versus Javon Holland or Jordan Poyer, that's a matchup that I absolutely love. I think that's going to be one of the ones that I think Buffalo is going to exploit early and often because the middle of the field will be so wide open. And then on defense for the Bills, I think that the biggest matchup I'm looking forward to is Rasul Douglas versus Tyreek Hill. I think that's going to be a fun matchup. And I mentioned it before, the way that Rasul Douglas has done not only a good job in coverage, but the way that he comes into the box in run situations and the way that he comes in mixed tackles, that's so beneficial for the Buffalo Bills. And he's in a contract year with the team, and he is earning his contract left and right. And I think it's in just a little bit of time that the Bills will definitely be re-signing him to a long-term extension. I want to go to the comments real quick. I see a comment coming in from Jessica Tennis saying, do you guys want to talk about Edwards wanting out of Buffalo? Definitely. That's one thing that we did want to talk about tonight is the trade deadline for the Buffalo Bills. And there's been a couple of rumors that the Bills may be done as a trade deadline. They acquired Amari Cooper. That's pretty much their big move. But you've heard some rumblings around that Mike Edwards, their safety, two-time Super Bowl champion with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well as the Kansas City Chiefs, may want out of Buffalo. It's been rumored that he wants out. He's been kind of gaining some headlines on social media because of his comments about being inactive and not being a starter, saying that he wants to be a starter on another team rather than play on a team that he can't even see the field. And if he does, I wish him all the best, to be honest with you. He's been relatively quiet in Buffalo, and if he wants out to go to a team that he can start on, then that's the best for him. But we have some guys in the safety room that I believe in DeMar Hamlin, Taylor Rapp, Cole Bishop. But also don't forget that we have a safety on our practice squad in Kareem Jackson that we can bring up to the active roster whenever we want to and fill his position easily.
Hey, give me 1 second, Brett.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. Take your time, bud. But yeah, other trades. There's some trade rumors for the Buffalo Bills that we can talk about as well. I think that there's some positions that, yes, I would love to see the Bills fill, but at what cost? That's the problem that you have to wonder about. Is it going to be a early pick in the draft? I'm not okay with giving up an early pick in the draft to get somebody like a defensive end that is going to be on a 1-year rental. I'm looking at this from a long-term perspective. If I'm looking at it with a guy like a Myles Garrett or a Max Crosby, somebody like that, you have to have them for at least 5 years and be able to control their contract for 5 years and be with the team. If I'm giving up a first-round pick or a second-round pick, in my opinion, There's tons of talent in the first and second round nowadays, and I don't want to give up a pick that early for the Buffalo Bills. When it comes down to defensive tackles, yes, I would love to see a defensive tackle come to the Buffalo Bills. There's a couple of options there in Sebastian Joseph Day, as well as DJ Jones, that it would be great fits. Joseph Day playing for the Tennessee Titans. Their record is not so good right now, but DJ Jones for the Denver Broncos would be a great fit as well. I know that there's been some rumors about linebackers as well for the Buffalo Bills, but you got to remember Matt Milano will come back eventually as well. And I feel like we're okay at cornerback. Would you agree there, Sean? Sean is not there, so just bear with me 1 second as I take a sip of water.
I'm back.
You're back, buddy?
Sorry,
okay.
My mom stepped over real quick, so I was just talking.
No problem. I was talking about the defensive side of the ball for the Buffalo Bills and positions. I feel like linebacker and cornerback we're okay with at the trade deadline. Is there a position that you think we need to fill?
I mean, I would still if you could, get a linebacker just because it's not just like last year when I said Milano wasn't coming back and everybody called me an idiot. Not you guys, but like people out in the internet world. They said, "Oh, what do you mean? TJ Watt came back in 6 weeks." And I said, "He's not gonna come back, I'm telling you." Oh no, that was for Daquan Jones. He ended up coming back, but at the very end. But they're like, "Oh, Milano might come back because they said it's possible. They're leaving it open." I said, "He broke his leg in half, dude. He's not coming back." But he might come back. But even if he does, 2 years in a row with a serious injury, and Bernard's made out of glass, so it'd be nice. And I mentioned a couple weeks ago with you guys, Robert Spillane from the Raiders. They're 2-6. They're probably gonna, I don't know the contract stuff, but he's the guy who's the starter. And you could tell him, hey, we know who you are as a player. Bernard's our guy, but he's been getting injured constantly. So we just need you ready on standby. And if he's okay with it, cool. If not, then all right, then you can get off the team next year. You're just a rental. But
what about
that would be nice. And then
I was going to say, what about Nick Morrow?
Yeah, it was already on the team, but
well, I'm just saying, comparing him to having that guy that's on the roster that can be behind Terrell Bernard, it's already there. Why do we need to go with another option? I'm just wondering.
Because you always can upgrade.
That's a good
always
answer.
Be looking to upgrade. And
that's a good answer.
And I don't even hate Morrow, but if you could get Spillane, that'd be cool. But we probably won't. And maybe I would like a defensive tackle just because it's a long season. Daquan Jones has been hurt the last 2 years. He's old. We already lost Dwayne Carter for 4 weeks. And God forbid you lose Ed Oliver or Daquan Jones again, and you already lost Carter, then that's a really, really poor room. So if you could get a really good backup defensive tackle, really behind Daquan Jones, then you're good to go. Because Dwayne Smoot could do a 3-tech as well if you absolutely needed it. So could Rousseau. But it'd be nice to have a nice replacement for Jones, who's pretty good 1-tech, could even play some nose. And there's not many of those guys out there. But I'll have to look at the rosters for bad teams that have a nose tackle or a pretty good 1-tech. And I would do that trade, but I doubt it.
I mentioned a couple of guys in Sebastian Joseph Day for the Tennessee Titans and DJ Jones for the Denver Broncos. Now, two teams that are in totally different directions. The Tennessee Titans obviously have a losing record at 1-6. Denver Broncos are sitting at, I believe, 5-3 right now, or 5-2.
Yeah, Broncos won't trade him. Yeah,
I don't think the Broncos will trade him, but that's a good option.
Day a 1-tech?
He's a bigger guy. I will tell you that. 6'1", I believe, and 320 pounds. That's what I like about him. He's a plugger type guy. He has a lot of tackles over the last couple of seasons.
Yeah, he was pretty good in LA too. I think he's a 3 tech just because they got Devondre Sweat over there. And I know Sebastian Day is I'm pretty sure he starts for them, so I think he might be a 3 tech. I'm not too sure. Yeah. He might be a backup 1 tech. I don't know, but it wouldn't be a bad move. I wouldn't mind bringing a guy like him in. Well,
yeah,
what I really want is I did want Devondre Sweat 100%. I think we could have got him too, but we didn't. Get a guy like him next year who's because if you want to keep running nickel, which is hard to stop the run on most occasions, but if you get a huge guy, and Jones is good at his job, but if you get a huge guy like Sweat and he's guaranteed to get a double team, you can't double team Oliver every time, and if you do, then that's perfect. Then you got 4 guys occupying 2, and that makes it easy for everyone else to stop the run. So it's really important to get a big guy like that next year.
Absolutely, Sean. You're exactly right. But let's go back to the Miami Dolphins and Buffalo Bills matchup, and give me your keys to the game for the Buffalo Bills in order to get a victory here.
Well, as always, the same thing with Miami. Disrupt the rhythm and timing. Be physical with the receivers at the line of scrimmage. We're in the trenches, and don't get fooled by the pretty looking stuff in the offense in the backfield. Stick to your assignments, which we do a pretty good job at when we play them. And just come out there physical and be ready to win. Don't come out flat. Don't think that you're going to run all over them and destroy them, because they want it probably more than we do, and we want it a lot. But that just goes to show, getting beat so many times, it does something to somebody. It really does. And we hate them too, of course, but there's a different kind of hatred when they just beat the crap out of you every time you play them. And, man, they don't want to do that again. So we better be ready to play.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I'm going to say my keys to the game are, number 1, protect the football, Josh Allen, in the offense. Protect the football, win the turnover battle in this game. Number 2, you have to make sure that you eliminate the penalties. So the last few weeks, we've had so many penalties that is just so ridiculous. This is a game. Yes, it's a rivalry game. I understand that the tensions are going to be high, but don't give the other team opportunities to move down the field because of your boneheadedness on the field. Take care of yourself and be mentally sound for this game, fundamentally and mentally sound for this game. The next key to the game for me is going into the middle of the field on offense. You got to be able to attack the middle of the field, find ways to get the ball to your tight ends and your playmakers over the middle of the field. Guys like Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox over the middle of the field, find a way to get it to your tight ends. I think that's going to be a big key for me in this game. And then on defense, the Bills have to do a better job. And I'm going to say this left and right. Sean, you haven't mentioned it yet today, but you mention it every single week. Missed tackles have to be cleaned up in this game. You got to be able to tackle. You got to be able to get the playmakers on the field. You cannot give up big plays, and it starts with better tackling for me in this game. The last key to the game is win the turnover battle, or I'm sorry, the time of possession battle. That's going to be the most important thing, is win the time of possession battle and dictate the clock, be able to run the ball, eliminate the amount of times that Tua is going to be on the field, because you're going to be running the ball and taking time off the clock each and every down. It's a lot like when you're playing against a team like the 90s Bills, where you have so many different weapons in the K-gun offense in there that they can go down the field and they can score each and every time. Take away that by running the ball and getting long, sustained drives for the Buffalo Bills and play bully ball. Just that bully ball mentality where you go down the field, grind it out, put a lot of pressure on their defense, and go down the field and put points on the board.
Yeah, great points. And Yeah, the penalties. McDermott's he's a good coach. He's got a good culture, but this, it keeps resurfacing. The can't stop the run, the penalties, the third down defense. That's all things that haven't changed since he's been here, and those are all like really important parts of winning football games. So you let Miami get all the third downs, third and long. You get two in a third and 15. You let them complete a 17-yard pass, and keep the sticks going. That's not good. That's not a recipe.
Yeah.
I'm not saying go make them go 0% on third down, but if you're in a 3rd and 7 and longer, stop them. Don't let them get those. If they're 3rd and 1 and they get it, cool. If they're 3rd and 2 and they get it, cool. But eliminate those really big third down plays, because that's what kills teams, kills drives, and it's momentum changing. And I think at home we've been pretty fine with the penalties, but those two games, the Jets and the Seahawks, both those games broke the record for most penalties in the game in a game this year.
Yeah.
So definitely got to get rid of that. But I think at home it's a little bit better because we shouldn't be false starting at home, shouldn't be doing illegal shifts anymore, and get those those are the ones that are just frustrating as hell, because those are things that it's just execution, lack of paying attention. And I think we'll be fine with the penalties. And those mafias got to show up again and be very loud and force the Dolphins to have miscommunications and false starts, and that'll help us out.
Absolutely, Sean. You're exactly right. I'm going to go into score predictions and closing thoughts. But for me, score predictions, I have the Bills winning this game 34-23. I feel like the Bills are going to come out of this game very strong. You'll see a little bit of a slide and momentum shift towards the middle of the game, but the second half adjustments the Buffalo Bills have been making over the last few games is going to be key. They'll make it some halftime adjustments, and they will come out of the gates putting points on the board in the second half. You'll see some big runs from James Cook, along with some good passes across the middle of the field. Bills win this game by 11 points, and the MVP of the game will be none other than Josh Allen. And then for me,
I hope so. That sounds good.
Go ahead, Sean.
No, that sounds good. I hope so.
Yeah. Closing thoughts for me, as always, I appreciate each and every one of you guys for tuning into the channel. Really appreciate you guys. And don't forget to like and subscribe, comment on the video, and drop a score prediction in the comment section below. But, Sean, give me your closing thoughts as well as a score prediction, man.
Well, I don't give exact score predictions. I just say I think the game's going to be anywhere between a 1 and a 10-point game. And again, hopefully we continue to do what we've been doing well, keeping the ball out of the other team's hands, scoring whenever we need to, and passing, running. Just keep that electric plays that we have, because it's been looking pretty good, man. It's we had those couple bad games, but you can see that we got talent and we're finally coming together. So keep all that up. Offensive line continue to dominate, and again, don't turn the ball over and take advantage of other teams' mistakes. And that's been the recipe. And I think we could do that again.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to go with Jessica Tennis's comment real quick. 34-16 Bills. Josh Allen sends another child support check to the Miami Dolphins. Absolutely love that score prediction. And Sean, you mentioned the camaraderie that you're seeing with the Buffalo Bills and how they're coming together as a team. That is when things get to be the best for a football team, is when everybody's coming together, buying into what you're trying to do. And you're seeing that develop with the Buffalo Bills and how they're playing for one another, and they're playing as a team. It's the greatest feeling in the world, and this team can go so far because of how close they are getting together. And it's always been a close team with Josh Allen at the helm, but you're seeing it with new guys coming in and buying into the culture. What you see from the Buffalo Bills is just incredible. So I can't wait to see what they do later on in the season when you add guys like Matt Milano into the mix, and how far this team can go being as healthy as they have been. But lastly, I just want to say really appreciate you guys for tuning in to the Red, White, and Ruthless. Sean, thank you so much for tuning in as well and being on the show. I know you're not feeling well, man, but I wish you all the best, buddy, and speedy recovery to you, man, and as you get over your cold as well.
Oh, yeah, we'll be good. We'll get through it. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time for another edition of Red, White, and Ruthless. We'll be back Saturday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but you can click on over to Nickel City Mafia for our shows in the post-game show. That'll be tomorrow with Jake and Mike, as well as the AFC East Summit and some other shows that they will have. And also don't forget their Discord channel as well. We will see you next time. And as always, go Bills.
Go Bills.